Viewers at home, you are welcome to my presentation on transportation problem. In this presentation, I will examine the Vogel Approximation Method of solving transportation problems, VAM method. If you are just joining me in this channel for the first time, or if you have not subscribed in the past, please click the red subscribe button and also turn on the notification bell icon so that you don't miss my upcoming videos. If you are a returning subscriber, I say thank you and God bless you. VAM method can also be called penalty method. It can also be called penalty method. It is an improvement on the least cost method that generates a better initial solution. VAM method is an improvement to the least cost method that generates a better initial solution when compared with the northwest corner method. My earlier presentation, I've examined both the northwest corner method and the least cost method of solving transportation problem. So, this method makes use of opportunity cost. By opportunity cost, we mean the penalty opportunity cost. That is, it makes use of the penalty principles in order to make allocation to various cells. It makes use of penalty, that is opportunity cost, to make allocation to various cells by minimizing the penalty cost. Steps for solving transportation problem using VAM method. Step 1. Compute for each row or column the penalty. The first step is to compute. Compute for each row or column. Each row or column the penalty. Step 2. Step 1, I've told you that you should compute for each row or column the penalty. What do you mean by the penalty? Penalty. To determine the penalty, you take the smallest unit. Smallest unit cost. Smallest unit cost in each row or column minus the next smallest unit cost. You take the smallest unit cost. If you are calculating for a row, you take the smallest unit cost in that row, then you consider the next smallest unit cost in that row, then you subtract it. Let's assume in a row you have 2, 1, 4, 5. The smallest, let me say you also have 3. So the smallest is 2. The next smallest is 1. So, the smallest is 1. The next smallest is 2. So you cannot have 2 minus 1, which is equal to 1. That means the penalty will be 1. If the smallest is 1, the next smallest to this one is 2. So you have 2 minus 1. That will give us 1. That is, you take the smallest unit cost in the row minus the next smallest unit cost. And if you are calculating for the column, then you do the same thing. I want you to know that ties should be handled arbitrarily. Ties should be handled arbitrarily. Step 2. Select the row or column. Select the row or column. The row or column with the highest penalty, and then allocate as much as possible, to the least cost, in the selected row or column. In the selected row or column. I've told you that the first step is to determine this penalty for each row or column. I've told you that penalty is the smallest unit cost minus the next smallest unit cost. Then after that, you now select the row or column with the highest penalty. Penalty for the rows and columns must have been calculated. Then you now look at the row or column with the highest penalty. Then you now allocate as much as possible to the smallest cost, that is the least cost in that row or column, that is in the selected row or column. I've told you that you are going to select the row or column with the highest penalty. Then, having identified the row or column with the highest penalty, then you now allocate as much as possible to the least cost in the selected row or column. Cross out the exhausted row, that is the third step. Step 3. Cross out the selected, the exhausted row, the exhausted row or column. Any row or column that have been exhausted, then you cross it out. If a row or column is exhausted simultaneously, then only one of it should be crossed. Only one of it should be crossed out. If you have a row and column being exhausted at the same time, you only cross out only one. You either cross out the row or you cross out the column, not both at the same time. Step 4. Repeat the above steps until only one row or column remains. Repeat the above steps until only one row or column remains. That is, repeat the step 1 to 3 above until you are left with only one row or column. The step 5. Allocate the leftover. Allocate the leftover when exactly one row or column. When exactly one row or column is uncrossed. Allocate the leftover when exactly one row or column is uncrossed. Then you just, when you are left with one row or column uncrossed, then the remaining ones, the remaining demand or supply, just make allocation to the available cost or the remaining cost. So these are the steps for solving problems on transportation, or for solving transportation problems or problem using VAM method. This same question has been used as work example in my earlier presentation on the northwest corner rule and the least cost method. SAO company has 3 plants or locations A, B, C, where its goods can be produced with production capacity of 50, 60, 50 per month respectively for a particular product. These units are to be distributed to 4 points X, Y, W, Z of consumption with the demand of 50, 70, 30 and 10 per month respectively. The following table gives the transportation cost in Naira from various plants to the various points of consumption. You have the destination, you have the sources or plant. Obtain the initial basic feasible solution by Vogel Approximation Method, VAM. That is the question. Now, let's have the solution. Solution, destination, we have X, Y, W, and Z. We have plants A, B, and C. So now back to the question. The cost under the column X, we have 21, 19, and 24. Column X, 21, 19, and 24. Column Y, we have 18, 18, and 25. 18, 18, and 25. Column W, we have 27, 24, and 28. 27, 24, and 28. Then we have column Z, 22, 20, and 25. 20 and 25. Now, the supply. SAO company has 3 plants or locations A, B, C, where its goods can be produced with production capacity of 50, 16, and 50. Capacity is the supply. That means A is 50, B is 60, and C is 50. Now, our A, this is A, 50, B, 60, C, 50. If you sum it up, 50 plus 60, that is 110. 110 plus 50, that is 160. Then, what is the demand? Demand. These units are to be distributed to 4 points S, Y, W, Z of consumptions with the demand of 50, 70, 30, and 10. That means X 50, Y 70, W 30, and Z 10. So demand X 50, Y 70, W 30, Z 10. Let's sum it up. 50 plus 70, 120, plus 30, 150, plus 10, that is 160. And this is also 160. So it is a balanced transportation problem. Now, since it is balanced, then the next thing to solve the problem using Vogel Approximation Method, I've told you that Vogel Approximation Method can also be called penalty method. The next thing is to calculate your penalty. Now, let's have the penalties. Now, we have rows and we also have columns. Columns. Then we have iteration. Iterations. Let's have the first iteration now. The rows we have. Our rows. We have rows. This is a row. This is another row. This is another row. We have row A, B, and C. Rows A, B, and C. And the columns. This is a column. This is another column. Column W and column Z. We have X, Y, W, and Z as the column. X, Y, W, and Z as the columns. So the first iteration now. I've told you that to calculate the penalty, you take the least cost in each row and subtract it from the next least cost. Now, if you look at the row A, the least cost is 18. The next to 18 is 21. If you have 21 minus 18, that will give us 3. That means under A, we have 3, row A, as our penalty. We have 3 as our penalty. Row B, the least cost is 18. The next least cost to it is 19. Therefore, 19 minus 18, that will be 1. Under B, the penalty will be 1. C now, the least cost, the least is 24. The next least cost is 25. Therefore, 25 minus 24, that will be 1. That is for the row. Then we have the columns. Column X. The least cost is 19 in this column, vertical. You take it vertically. The least is 19. The next least cost is 21. 21 minus 19, that will be 2. So we have 2 as the penalty under column X. Column Y. The least cost is 18. And the next least cost to 18 is also 18. 18 minus 18, that will be 0. So we have 0 as the penalty. Column W, the least cost is 24. The next least cost to that is 27. 27 minus 24, that will be 3. So our penalty is 3. Now, the next column is column Z. The least cost is 20, and the next least cost to that is 22. 22 minus 20, that will be 2. So our penalty is 2. And I said, having determined the penalty, you choose the highest of the penalties. The highest is 3. Then you now allocate. We choose 3 because 3 is the highest. So let's take this one. And you make maximum allocation to the row A now. Since we have that 3 in row A, you make the maximum allocation to the least cost in row A. Now, what is our row A? This is our row A. So the least cost in row A is 18. So now here you have, in that row you have 50 as the supply. In that column you have 70. That means you can make allocation of 50 to that row. So you have exhausted the 50 you have here. So you'll be left with 0. You have 50 minus 50 is 0. In this column, you have allocated 50. So that means from 70, you have allocated 50. Then you'll be left with 20. The balance of 20. Now, the second step also is to determine the penalty. Let's have the second iteration. So, row A. You can consider this row A, since you have exhausted the supply you have in that row. So you can consider that row A. Let's put asterisk there. So that will not be considered since you have exhausted the supply in that row. Row B, the least cost is 18 and the next least cost to that is 19. This 18 will be considered since you have not exhausted the 70 you have there. So we have 19 minus 18. So we have 1. Then row C, the least cost is 25 and the next least cost to that is 24. 25 minus 24, that will be 1. So we have 1 as our penalty. So column now, column X. This column, you take it vertically. This will not be considered since you have exhausted what you have there. So that means you will be considering this and this, this and this, this and this. We are excluding this from the column since what you have in that column have been exhausted. Therefore, 24 minus 19. 24 minus 19, that will be 5. So we have 5 in column X. I've told you that we did not consider the 21 since what you have in that row has been exhausted. Now, here again you have 25 minus 18. 25 minus 18, that gives us 7. So we have 7 in column Y. Then column W, we have 28 minus 24, that will be 4. So we have 4 in column W. In column Z, you have 25 minus 20, that will be 5. So you have 5 in column Z. Therefore, the highest penalty is 7. So that 7 is obtained in column Y. Then you make maximum allocation to the least cost in column Y. So now this is column Y. The least cost, I've told you that you will not consider this since you have made your allocation in that row. So you consider between this and this now. The least cost is 18. So that means you can make your allocation to 18 now. But remember, what you are left with here is 20. So you cannot allocate more than 20 here. So you give 20 to this. So that means you have 20 minus 20, that is 0. You have exhausted what you have in this column. Then in this row now, since 20 has been assigned to this, that means from 60 now, 20 has been assigned to that, then you'll be left with balance of 40. So that is for that. Then iteration now. Now we want to determine the penalty. So this row has been exhausted, so let's put asterisk there. Then row B now. The least cost, we have not exhausted what you have here. So the least cost in row B is 19. We can't consider 18 again, since you have exhausted what you have in that column. So we have 19. Then we also have 20. 20 minus 19, that will be 1. So we have 1 in row B as the penalty. Then row C now, the least cost, we have 24. The next least cost is 25. 25 minus 24, that will be 1. So that is row C. Then column X now. I've told you that since we have exhausted what you have in this, so this will be excluded. So we now compare this and this. So we have 24 minus 19, that will be 5. We have 5. We have 5. Then column Y, we've exhausted column Y. So that will not be considered since we've exhausted what we have there. So let's put asterisk there. So then column W, we have 28 minus 24. I've told you that this will be excluded since we've exhausted what you have in that row. So 28 minus 24, that will be 4. So we have 4. Then column Z, we have 25 minus 20, that will be 5. So we have 5. The least cost is 5. Now let's choose this. So that is column X. Let's make maximum allocation to the least cost in column X. Column X is this. Now you cannot allocate here. This is excluded. Then the least cost is 19. Remember, what you have in this row is 40. And here you have 50. So you can only give 40 to this. Then 40 minus 40, we've exhausted this. Then 50. From 50, you've allocated 40 to this. So that means you'll be left with 10. That is 50 minus 40. That will be 10. So that is for this. Now, we've exhausted 2 rows now. We are only left with 1 row. So you don't need to establish any penalty again. So now, we want to make the remaining allocation now. Now here, you have 10. You are left with 10 here. You cannot allocate to this row since you have exhausted this. This has received 40. So that means the remaining 10 will be allocated to this. So we have 10. Then 10 is gone. You'll be left with 0. Here you have allocated 10 from 50. So you'll be left with 40. Then this has been exhausted. No further allocation can be made to this column. Then this one, you are left with 30. You can't allocate here since you've exhausted this. You can't allocate here since you've exhausted this as well. So we can allocate the remaining 30 we have in this column to this. 30 from 30, then you are left with 0. From 40, you've allocated 30. So you'll be left with 10. That is 40 minus 30, that is 10. Then the remaining 10 now can now be allocated to this. 10 from 10 is 0. 10 from 10 is 0. So that means we've exhausted the whole 160. Now, we want to calculate the cost of transportation. Total cost of transportation. We have In row A, we have 18 times 50. 18 times 50. Then in row B, we have 19 times 40. 19 times 40. In the same row B, we have 18 times 20. 18 times 20. In row C, we have 24 times 10. In the same row C, we have 28 times 30. 28 times 30. Then in the same row C, we have 25 times 10. 25 times 10. Now, 18 times 50. 18 times 50. That gives us 900. Amount in naira. 900 naira. 19 times 40. That gives us 760 naira. 18 times 20. We have 360. 24 times 10. That is 240. 28 times 30. 28 times 30. That gives us 840. 25 times 10. That is 250. So we now sum it up. 900 plus 760 plus 360 plus 240 plus 840 plus 250. So we have 3,350. The cost of transportation is 3,350. This is the end of the part 3 of my presentation on transportation problems. So in part 4, I will examine the unbalanced transportation problems, where I'm going to solve questions involving northwest, corner rule, least cost method, and Vogel Approximation Method. Thanks for watching AZCAM. Please don't forget to share the videos with others.